central India, in cities like Bhopal, historically known for the Begums who ruled here and created some of its splendid architecture. Or the more commercial city of Indore. Its roots embedded in what was a crucial trading hub right between Delhi and the Deccan. Both examples for much of the change that is sweeping through modern India. No matter which Indian city you go to, it's always the interplay between the past and the present, the then and the now that catches your fancy, and it's all worth exploring. I'm in the city of Bhopal, the capital of Madhya Pradesh. The lake behind me, it's what keeps the city cool even at the height of summer. But it's cities like Bhopal and Indore where things are hotting up. That's where the business opportunities lie, and brands are trying to find their place in the sun. A very warm welcome to this edition of Logo. I'm Vikram. We're putting the spotlight on a local Hindi newspaper brand, Dainik Bhaskar. Born in 1958 in Bhopal, Dainik Bhaskar has emerged as one of the top 5 most widely circulated newspapers, not just in India, in the world. Over the years, it has deepened its reach within Madhya Pradesh itself, setting up this model, state-of-the-art press in Indore, and then several more editions in languages other than Hindi in various Indian states, chronicling India's fast-paced growth, especially after liberalization began. Well, a brand story is told by the kind of legacy that is created around it, and Dainik Bhaskar, which started here in Bhopal in the year 1958, has created quite a history. They've been sentinels of time, looking at the kind of changes that are sweeping across the nation. In that, they've created their own legacy, and it's shaping their brand positioning even for the future. How exactly have they done this, and what are the big milestones?
GB has always been a publication that has been ruling the roost in the north. So it's always got a stranglehold in that particular area in a nice way.
People take a lot of pride in saying that they are a 200-year-old paper or a 150-year-old paper. Bhaskar defied that logic completely.
How did we build the idea of reader first is an example when we went out of Madhya Pradesh. That was the first journey wherein a milestone got built up.
1996, you wouldn't see a lot of people trying hands out of their territories. So they were all operating. You see, typically the newspaper world is such that you have one state, one player kind of markets. We were the first one, again, as I said, to defy this logic, and we moved out to Rajasthan to enter in someone's comfort zone.
It was the first time in the history of Indian media that a proper survey of the readers by reaching out door to door by a large number of surveyors, asking the reader, what do you want to read in a newspaper?
And the brand gave Gujarat what they wanted, launching the 4th edition in 2003 in the city of Ahmedabad, calling it Divya Bhaskar.
Went to Gujarat, which was a totally new market, culturally different, language was different, and this was for the first time that we were trying to reach out to a non-Hindi reader. It was a huge exercise and more structured, so that came out with very interesting learning, which suggested and which became the philosophy of Bhaskar, that the paper which they were reading there was also very, very good. So then how would you come out with? So that gave us the idea that can you come out with a paper which I want? That became a tagline which you may call positioning, but which will live till date. Tamari Marjino Akhbar. That is the paper which you want, which you dictate.
Hyper-local engagement that it has with the community of the local place really allows it to engage better with its own readership and as well as stakeholders. So that's one of the major reasons that it holds trust in that area.
Bhaskar itself is a very aspiring brand. You see, in the last 20 years, having succeeded in these many markets in 20 years, I mean, this requires a lot of aggression, lot of passion. Okay, so Bhaskar's whole essence is driving that passion, is driving that leadership, is driving that confidence to succeed. If you look at the tier 2, tier 3 growth, the circulation is still on the uprise. The circulation is still growing in these markets by 5 to 6%. That's on such a large base, growing 5 to 6% is a big number.
These cities, there is a huge propensity for the readers to search for knowledge. The quest for knowledge is not so much for bettering their own lives, but for the whole family. They believe that knowledge is the single thing which will help them get ahead in life. No matter which strata of the society they come from, knowledge is a key enabler. And as a newspaper, we see ourselves more as a knowledge enabler rather than just being a source of information. So we said, let's start focusing on these people who are really urban aspirers, who really want to lead an urban life.
This content, if you look at, so just to kind of give you an example, HBR or a Time magazine kind of content you would normally see in a language daily, right? But that's what Bhaskar has been doing, because Bhaskar is making this product for urban aspirers. So a lot of it, whether it's a Sunday Jacket introduction or a no negative news campaign or a HBR or a Time magazine content or a live well look good kind of sections which you typically don't see in a language daily are all there. In the last 20 years, if you see, the success of these tier 2, tier 3 towns has been driven by these urban aspirers.
The second part to the whole thing was when we started focusing on our community drives, which was all the CSR activities that we started doing as a part of a vision of driving a socio-economic.
In the print space, while a lot of media houses would drive similar initiatives, but at the end of the day, it boils down to the size and scale. Bhaskar brings the size and scale that requires to drive such initiatives.
Well, we've got our first real insight into brand Dainik Bhaskar, but then they've launched this brand campaign, No Negative Mondays, about a year or so ago, that's taking a life of its own, and a certain activation is taking place in Ujjain, where the big Mela is happening. So that's where we're headed. We'll take a short break, but do stay with us. We'll be right back. Along the banks of the river Shipra, the sacred town of Ujjain comes alive once every 4 years for a month-long spiritual gathering, marked by a holy dip in this river. From here emerges a sterling example of how Dainik Bhaskar created and took forth a unique brand-building campaign, here at the famous Sinhast Mela. Welcome back to this edition of Logo. This time we are in Ujjain at the Great Mela. They call it the Sinhast Mela. It happens once in many, many years. That's why you see the great confluence of people, like you can see behind me as well. But this is a great opportunity for a brand like Dainik Bhaskar to up the positioning they've already created in the market, especially with a campaign. Let's tell you more about the Sinhast Mela.
3 years back, we really shifted gears and said that, now is the time really to build a big brand. And we hired an agency, Verti Brand, to work with us on crafting this whole brand manifesto.
Dainik Bhaskar, we are the agency on record for past 3.5 years. And I mean, we've been working with, all your B2C communications across 14 states, all the 61 editions that they have. There are about 14,000 odd registered newspapers in this country, and there are about 400 plus odd news channels in the country. Given this scenario, how can a newspaper differentiate itself?
It all started with Monday Blues. So we thought, let's give something to our readers with which they can start their day on a positive note. And let's start with the newspaper.
During these discussions, somebody just came up that, whenever you read a negative news, especially Monday Monday ka murder ho jata hai. Now this was one of the things that came up, and this is where the first bulb lit. This was the first light bulb. So our first teaser came up that said from 19th of January, Monday ki hatya nahi hogi. In Hindi it said 19 जनवरी से सोमवार की हत्या नहीं होगी. And with a very interesting visual that left people thinking.
After having run this campaign for about 10 weeks, we reached out to people to know how are they feeling it. 82% people have said we would like you to give a positive paper all 7 days.
Now that the campaign had found its feet, the next step was to give it a face, especially one that would connect to the market they've been targeting.
The next level was bringing in a celebrity. We are typically in a tier 2, tier 3 kind of market, and our readers, if we kind of bracket our TG, these are urban aspirers. They need a hero. Okay, so we needed a hero. And with something like this, who else could have been better than an Amir Khan?
Amir came on board, talked about No Negative Monday. Lots of other people came on board. Lots of people joined. In fact, Mr. Modi went on to mention in its Canada convention that about this campaign.
हमने हमारे अखबार की एक नीति बनाई है, और वो नीति ये है कि सप्ताह में एक दिन हमारा अखबार सिर्फ और सिर्फ पॉजिटिव न्यूज ही छापेगा.
The second thing was to come to the philosophical level of it, to impact mindsets, to kind of bring about a behavioral change. So the biggest challenge was that how do we do this without being preachy, without telling people what to do? To counter that challenge, Live No Negative started, we wanted to start not through a print campaign, so we did a film.
We brought in a different campaign. In fact, if you've seen our Char Kahaniyan kind of video, which at the first look of it kind of gives you all the negative stories. I mean, your mind starts tickling on the negative side, but then the stories all end on the positive note.
Now, behind that smile was basically a realization. The realization was that actually my thinking is like that. Actually, I have formed certain stereotypes in my mind, and I react to situations that way. It achieved its objective of differentiating itself into its market. Okay, the reason why I say this is there is a good 8% plus in their circulation revenues during the last 1 year, which is a big gain given the market scenario. From a brand perspective, it got a little closer to the reader's life. Okay, people started believing that yes, Dainik Bhaskar is not just a newspaper for me. It is not a source of information. It is a source of inspiration as well for me. The newly found positioning point of view, that to provide cutting-edge content and knowledge to its readers and help them succeed in life, Dainik Bhaskar has achieved that with the customers, with the readers, and on the whole, created an impact on the media as well.
Creating a new marketing strategy, of course, comes with its pitfalls as well. There is the relative uncertainty of whether it's going to work or not. And of course, you need the buy-in from the editorial side as well. There was this entire drive to create positivity, but the editorial team needed to buy into the idea and really make it work on a consistent level. How exactly did it happen at Dainik Bhaskar? That's what I'm here to find out at the Indore office.
When this idea came up, we never considered the numbers. If you build something, you need to cut on certain things. Two things happened. We did not remove that content. We maybe cut it short to a size, but that is also not important. We gave a separate section on each page. It's a deep ideation. It requires a massive effort, and it requires a lot, a very, very big resource support. very big resource support. It requires large amount of investment to be put in, because your reporters are not doing the regular thing on those days, and they are into the field to search such stories. Monday has been redefined as no negative. That gives us a real big strength and confidence.
To have a no negative Monday or something to that effect does leave that positive attitude of the brand outside, because it's not the easiest of things. Everybody is attuned to doing a certain way in the next 6 days, but you have to retune yourself to doing it in a certain way on a particular Monday. It will benefit, but it may not convert into readers. It may not convert, so the existing readers will be definitely having a better feel about the brand. If they try to increase this as a more statement of editorial policy, rather than just have a day, I think it will definitely expand the scope of the positivity coming onto the brand.
We certainly see the brand expanding their marketing initiative and editorial policy in Ujjain at the Sihast Mela. The holy town literally painted in the colors of Dainik Bhaskar in more ways than one. So this is the great Simhast Mela of Ujjain. It's a great pilgrimage spot, but you can't deny the fact that it has to be a logistical nightmare considering the number of people who come together over here. But of course, it drives the local economy. The logistics are mind-boggling. If you look at transport, hospitality, the infrastructure that you need to create, but great business opportunities as well. And within that, for a brand to make its presence felt. We've seen Dainik Bhaskar set up those changing rooms over there just to kind of facilitate the kind of infrastructure you need for people who are bathing at the ghats. But then, of course, this goes back to the entire campaign which they launched called No Negative Mondays. What's the genesis of this? Let's try and understand that.
Kumbh is a very big festival in the overall scheme of things in the country, and this year in Simhast, more than 50 million pilgrims are supposed to visit Ujjain. Yes. So it was a perfect platform for us to showcase what no negative life is all about. And in our scriptures, it's believed that taking a dip in Shipra takes away all your sins. So you come out pure. So we said, let's build on this whole concept of Shubharam Kare Ek Nahi Soch Ka. Try to beautify the city also. All the wall paintings were done with this key message of Shubharam Kare Nahi Soch Ka. We distributed a lot of brochures which had content which was curated, which you can't just find on Google. In the Mahakal temple, we set up RO plants and had water free distributed to the pilgrims.
The encompassing nature of the brand message, as it were, is it easier to be able to reach out to different layers of your clientele?
Now, when we take it forward to other cities, now we plan to do it in around 34 cities in our 10 states where we are present. We would obviously trying to build in this whole thought about no negative Monday. We will not give you any negative news. You as a important part of the society start living a very positive life, because unfortunately our society is very negative. And to an extent, negativity is what most people believe would sell, whether in terms of viewership or readership. Now, our whole intent is to change that tide, and we would like to stretch this for the next 3-4 years, because we really think that we are able to create through this a very differentiated brand.
The colors and vivacity of Ujjain at a time like this has to be seen to be believed. You really have to experience the Mela. But even as we say goodbye to the city, we are mulling over some of the activations that have been initiated by Dainik Bhaskar, thinking that this has to be driven by a larger vision. What's the management's thought process when they're thinking of this brand campaign? That's what we're about to find out as we head back to Mumbai. Do join us after a short break. Welcome back to this edition of Logo. In our quest to understand the making of brand Dainik Bhaskar, I find myself now in the offices in Mumbai of the Dainik Bhaskar Group in conversation with the company's director. Girish Agarwal is joining us. Great to have you on the show, Mr. Agarwal. After having visited your editorial offices in Indore, in Bhopal, talking to some of your editorial people as well, and then going to Ujjain, trying to understand the making of the brand, the activation that you currently have in progress, I get a feeling, and you may correct me if I'm wrong, that the brand is trying very hard now to position itself as a newspaper for urban aspirers, which means you have presence in the non-metros. And also I find with your recent ad campaign, Zid Karo Duniya Badlo, therein I also find that you want to position yourself very strongly for these urban aspirers as agents of change and pushing your readership to do exactly that as well. I want to understand from a management perspective where that came from. Where did that philosophy come in?
So, as a newspaper organization, it's a challenge for our editorial team that every 3 years, 4 years time, they need to reinvent themselves. Because we believe that the society is changing, the understanding of a consumer is changing, a reader is changing. So, the same message, what you want to give it to him, has to change the approach. So, our editorial keep thinking about it.
This is an attempt to understand how advertising works for someone who is within that space and, you know, conveying that message for advertisers to your readers as well. I'm just trying to understand how much in sync your advertising message, what message you're trying to convey to your readership about where you stand, where you position yourself, how much does that have to be in line with whatever your advertisers are trying to communicate?
I would say 100%. It has to be a seamless syncing.
So the recent kind of campaigns that we've seen, Mr. Agarwal, is that in a way trying to align yourself to do that even better? And how?
Yes, for example, it says Zid Karo Duniya Badlo. Okay, let's take a four-wheeler company. What a four-wheeler company is trying to say? Upgrade yourself. You know, if you are driving a two-wheeler, you must look at a better four-wheeler. Or if you are driving a startup like a 5 lakh rupees four-wheeler, you should aspire to become a CEO of the company so you can actually buy a Mercedes or a Audi or a BMW. So this campaign also says the same thing, Zid Karo Duniya Badlo. Change the life for yourself, change the life around you, you know, by doing things better.
Right.
You know, or for example, if Mr. Narendra Modi is saying that Swachh Bharat, Skill Bharat, you know, make in India is what? He's saying you can do it. You know, must make sure that you try hard and you get it done.
Right.
So our campaign is very much in sync with all this around.
Which are the biggest challenges that you find on the marketing front to be in this day and age? Because we're talking newspapers, right? For the longest time, we've seen them stuck in a bit of a time warp. So they've been a little slow on the uptake, and I'm sure you'll disagree with me on that. I'm just comparing it to television, and you need to help me understand that because I come from that space.
Newspaper circulation in India is growing almost 6% year on year since 2008.
Right.
The Audit Bureau of Circulation data says that we have added on 1 crore 88 lakh copies newspaper in India as the country, you know, in last 7 years time. That's equivalent to the circulation of half of USA.
Sure.
You know, so I think there's a misunderstanding, or maybe the newspaper fraternity not being able to position themselves well, where people are saying, oh, newspaper is kind of stuck, like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
We are not stuck. 6%
Do
circulation growth.
Do you think it's sustainable?
It is.
And what is marketing going to do to help you do that, to make it sustainable?
I think before marketing is the editorial, because newspaper or any product is actually about the content, and the editorial is the content. Marketing can only say, okay guys, I'll reach out to a particular customer and say that you must start reading. But what he's going to read? He's not going to read the blank pages, he's going to read the content in the paper. So if all the newspaper, whether it's English, Hindi, Gujarati, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, they all put together have been able to grow 6% year on year from last 7 years in India. I'm just talking about last 7 year data. You know, and then I feel in next 5 years time, this number will further grow up. For two reasons. All the newspaper organizations in this country have got wealth now. They have got whereabout, they got technology. You know, so all that put together, there are millions of dollars being invested by all the organizations in upgrading their printing facilities, opening up new market, giving the best of the quality to the consumer. So this is going to grow up the market furthermore.
What about the marketing mix as far as your own campaigns are concerned? Considering that you come from a print background, how much merit do you see in being able to use print itself to push the brand message?
My markets, I'm using my newspaper as a vehicle. We're using outdoor also, because we strongly believe all the mediums, whether it's print, digital, television, outdoor, we all complement each other. We all support each other.
Like? Where is the majority going?
So I think the majority is obviously print, and then followed by television, and then digital also, and some of the outdoor also.
Right. So Digital is still a little slow because I think digital to a large extent is going to be the competition. Now, to be able to be one up as far as reach is concerned in terms of, like I said, sustainability of the product, you need that much more presence on the digital space as well. So what is the vision over there? How are you working towards more of a digital presence, whether through marketing or even editorial?
See, on the digital presence, again, as you would know that DainikBhaskar.com, we have got around 30 million unique visitors with us every month.
Yes.
And we are the second largest news website in the country. So we push ourselves through that in terms of marketing message. But to ensure that that vehicle itself is growing, we are doing a hell of a lot to ensure that that 30 million unique visitor what we have should become 60 million in the next 2 years' time.
Well, good luck going ahead, Mr. Agarwal. This has been a learning curve. It's a pleasure to have you on the show, and that is our logo episode this week. Thank you, Need, for joining us. We hope you've got great insights into this one brand. There'll be many more in the future. Bye-bye for now.